Yes, good day again. We are meeting once again in grade 10 economics learners. Today we are specifically looking at section B. And don't forget that I said in the previous presentation that our paper has got three sections. Section B, you answer only one question. Section B, you answer only one question. You answer only one question. You choose from two questions that are there and you answer only one in section B. And don't forget that this is term 3 and we are looking at revision. I have got questions that I have prepared and then the answers are also pasted. We are just going to discuss them as we go right now. What is happening is questions are written in red and the answers are given in black. And please note that I've been just giving more answers, just alternative answers, not only according to the mark allocation of the question. So we go, first question reads that name any two rights of workers at workplace. Workers' rights at workplace. What are any two rights of workers at workplace? What are the rights of workers at workplace? So we are saying we need 2 marks, 2 points. Each has got 1 mark. So everyone has the right to fair labor practices. Fair labor practices, we mean that when employees are at work, they are not supposed to be discriminated, they are not supposed to be harassed, they are not supposed to be abused. So fair labor practice, it has to do with the safety of the working conditions, it has to do with the remuneration, it has to do with the leaves applicable to every employee. So basically we are saying fair is right for fair labor practices. Every worker has the right to form and join a trade union. We have been talking about representation of employees. It is a right of every employee to be represented. We talk about maybe in times of grievances that might arise or problems that might arise at workplace. Employees need representation. So we are saying they have got a right to join a trade union of their choice. Every worker has the right to participate in the activities and programs of a trade union uh, and a strike, given that they are joining or they have joined their trade unions, they have rights to participate, to take part in the activities of the trade union, in the events of their union, of their union. They have right for that. So now what we are saying is that employees have right to strike, they have right to demonstrate, they have right to participate according to their trade union directions. And then every employee has the right to form and join an employees or an employers organization. Employers organizations are also the employees have right to join or form an employers organization. So joining or forming an employers organization, which is also representing various conditions and workplace ethics. And then every employee has the right to participate in activities and programs of employers organization. So employers organizations, employees have got right to participate in them. So we are saying there are quite a lot of given these what we are saying they are the rights of employees at workplace, participating in employers organizations and also forming or joining any employers organization, sorry. And then briefly explain the law of demand of labor. We are saying a law of demand for labor. What is it? One mark, one answer, 2 marks. So in basically the concept or the concept of the law of demand, what we need to understand is that demand, what it does is that demand He has got the basic economics that the higher the price of labor is, the higher the price of labor is, the lower the demand for such labor will be. So when labor is very expensive, employees or professions, their salaries and wages, the salaries and wages, the wages or salaries of a given profession, the higher it is, the lower the demand for such labor because people might not be able to pay for it. And then the lower the price of labor is, the higher the demand for such labor will be also. So we are just making and looking at a scenario whereby it's a vice versa situation where that labor, the lower the price of labor is, the higher the demand for such labor because we are saying employers are able to afford and pay that labor. So the labor, the principle or the law of labor demand is that the lower the price of labor, the higher the demand for such labor. We have got a graph that we are to go to check at, which we are going to use to answer some questions below. So on the vertical axis, we have got the wage level, and then on the horizontal, we have got the quantity of labor, the quantity or the number of people who are employed, the labor or the employees. So we have got the supply. We also have the demand. We have got the supply and we have what? The demand. We have supply and also demand. So supply and demand, S representing supply, D representing demand. So that is what it is. We have got the prices here, 500 rand, and then 60 rand, and then the demand, and then we are looking at points of intersections that are given here that would help us to answer questions that would follow. So we have got questions that are following. Identify the equilibrium wage rate. Equilibrium, we are talking about the point of intersection where the demand and supply are meeting. So the equilibrium wage rate in terms of our graph there, it is given that we have got our equilibrium wage rate. We are talking about the payment, which is what? 500, where we have got the intersection of equilibrium wage. Our equilibrium wage rate is given as what? As the point of intersection of demand and supply, which is 500. That is given in this case. It is 500 that we are seeing there. It is 500. And then from the graph, what would be the labor surplus B? We are talking about labor excess. So we are having our graph given there. It is 200 minus 100, which would give us what? Which would give us our labor surplus. Quantity of labor. This is the supply. We are saying the supply, we are given our labor supply, which is coming from there. So the question is asking about what? It needs us to look at labor surplus. So labor surplus, it is 200 minus what? Our 200 minus 100, and then we get 100, which is going to say 100 people are excess. And then briefly describe the term labor union. We said labor union is an organization that protects and fights for the rights of employees. It's an organization that protects and fights for the rights of employees. That is a labor union. And then what would be the impact on the market if the size of population increases? The impact on the market, we are talking about which market? We are talking about this in terms of the supply of of labor, if the supply of labor increases, what is the impact on the market if the population increases? So what happens is that the supply curve will shift to the right, increase in terms of supply. We are saying the supply curve will shift to the right as the size of the labor force has increased. Size of the labor force increased, there will be a greater demand for labor or goods and for labor, goods or services, which can also be there. So what we are saying is that what would be the impact if the market, on the market, if the size of the population increases, population size, it would result in increase in labor supply. That would also cause a greater demand for labor. Why? Because people are able to are able to afford them. So an increase in labor supply, an increase in labor supply, we are saying the graph will shift to the right. It means we are going to find a new position that will come, which is showing an increase, which is illustrating our what? Our increase. Our increase in what? In labor supply. In labor supply, which we are saying it is what? Increase in population. So an increase in population would also mean that we have got a decrease in what? We might also have that the wages would also decrease, because what happens is that the wages decreases because the more the people, the more they want to work at job, and therefore their demand would also increase because people are affording them. That is what happens with regard to this situation. So the graph will shift to the right as I've demonstrated there. It shifts to the right as the size of the labor force has increased. So labor supply, it is on the horizontal axis. Being on the horizontal axis, it has to shift. We have got an increase in labor supply. So this is our new, labor supply, which is caused by an increase in what? In population. So it shifts to the right as we have said there. So greater demand for labor would increase, on also goods and services will also be produced because of high labor there. And then next question is saying, how is arbitration used to solve labor disputes? Arbitration, we said it has to do with what? With the neutral, with an impartial party. It has to do with an impartial party. It has to do with a trade union, impartial individual who stand in between. So trade unions, we need to understand that our trade unions negotiate with employers on behalf of members of to improve the wages, benefits such as pensions, medical benefits, working conditions, health and safety conditions. These are negotiated by trade unions who represent the employees. They are standing on behalf of employees, negotiating with the employers. That is one thing. And then two, trade unions work towards reducing any loss of jobs through retrenchment. Retrenchment as people being laid off, laying off uh, of of employees. That is retrenchment. Reasons for retrenchment are quite many. There can be reasons to do with either uh, company failing to meet the labor, the salaries. It can be because of a certain department failing to perform enough, and whatever reason. So the trade unions would always negotiate. They always work towards in protection of jobs of their clients, who are the employees. Uh, we are saying help members to resolve grievances, which is what the trade unions help members to resolve grievances, problems that arise at workplace. They are resolved, they are discussed and solved because of the ways or the intervention that is taken by what? By the trade unions, and then represent members in labor disputes. Trade unions, they also represent, they are the ones who negotiate on behalf, they negotiate on behalf of their members. Their members who are saying they are the employees. They are the employees. So now they actually take part, they actually represent them. So start the information below and answer the questions that follow. Former Federation of Unions of South Africa General Secretary Dennis George's dismissal is now in the hands of CCMA. The Federation dismissed George over allegations of corruption involving his purchase of shares in controversial company IO Technologies. The company has been accused of irregularities which has been laid bare at the Public Corporation Inquiry. In the document, George says his dismissal was procedurally unfair, meaning to say not rightful procedures were not done because they represent the presiding officer, the officer in charge who investigated the allegations against him uh, uh, and found him guilty was hired through the same attorneys who conducted the probe. So now there is some kind of uh, situations and problems that are arising in this context. So the first question is saying, what does CCMA stand for? It is Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration. We are saying it's an organization that represents the rights of employees. It actually works to ensure that there is fair working conditions and labor practices in terms of the employer and the employee relationship. So it's Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration. Why, according to the extract, was George's dismissal considered unfair? We are given in the according to the context, was procedurally unfair because the presiding officer who investigated the allegations against him and found him guilty was hired through the same attorneys who conducted the probe, the investigation. So that is the reason why the investigation or the dismissal was found being unfair. The main officer who investigated allegations against him and found him guilty was hired through the same attorneys who conducted the probe, which might mean that he might not be impartial, but he might also take the sides of the investigating officer is being considered or assumed to have taken the side of what the he might have been taken the side of the company or have taken the side of the attorneys. So that can be the possible reason why it was unfair. And then briefly describe the term bargaining council. Bargaining council is an organization which facilitates the negotiation process between unified employees. We are saying employees of the same trade, typical trade unions and employers on matters such as working conditions and wages. So wages and working conditions are discussed through the bargaining council, which actually facilitates the negotiation process. So it is an organization that actually enable or promotes negotiation process between unified members or unified employees, typical of a trade unions and employers on matters such as working conditions and wages. So therefore, it actually seeks to establish fairness in terms of employee working conditions. Why does the Labor Appeal Court have greater powers than the Labor Court? The appeal, why does the Labor Appeal have greater, it has more powers than the Labor Court? It can hear appeals against Labor Court. It can hear appeals against Labor Court decisions. That is the reason one. And also it can make final decisions which are legal and binding. it can make decisions that are legal and binding, meaning to say that they can be observed and can be implemented, and they are actually real amongst the parties involved. It can deal directly with matters normally dealt with by the labor court. So the labor court actually refers the cases to what to the Labor Appeal Court. The Labor Appeal Court actually presides on matters that might have been fairly or which might have been found not fairly settled by the Labor Court. So it can deal directly with matters that has been uh, considered dealt with by the Labor Court. What would be the what would the results of an unsuccessful mediation process be? In an unsuccessful mediation, what would be the results? It means when conciliation fails, a party may request CCMA. We said unsuccessful, meaning to say that somebody has tried, or a party or an individual might have tried to stand in between in order to resolve problems. However, we are saying when it is unsuccessful, therefore mediation, conciliation fails, a party may request the CCMA to resolve the disputes by arbitration. Arbitration is sought from the CCMA, and at an arbitration hearing, a commissioner gives arbitration hearing, the commissioner gives both parties an opportunity to fully state their cases. And then the decision called the arbitration award is legally binding on both parties. That is what is going to happen there. So we are saying this is basically just 4 marks. You understand? So that is what is happening there. That CCMA is actually sought as an arbitration, and then is an arbitrator, and then a commissioner gives to both parties chances to fully state their problems, and also decision called the the decision called the arbitration award is legally binding, which is the final thing. Discussing the factors affecting demand for labor in South Africa. What are the factors that affect labor demand in South Africa? One, performance of the economy. We are talking about the status of the economy. If the economy grows, more goods and services produced by labor are sold and more labor is employed. So we are talking about performance of employment, performance of the economy that also be able to generate enough money to be plowed back into business, productivity of labor, the relationship between real output and quantities of input used to produce that output. Productivity is a measure of efficiency. We are talking about production per unit, production per unit that has been used. So we look at efficiency as being able to producing more with limited with limited resources or inputs. So therefore, what we are saying is that labor productivity affects labor demand. If people are working properly, people are producing effectively, we are saying it can also result in what in promotion of labor, and then improvements in technology, which we are saying technology extends human ability and it advances raises the marginal product of a laborer. So the improvement in technology also would affect labor demand, which can either increase or decrease labor demand. When technology and mechanization become so much, demand for labor also tends to be less, because machinery and technology tend to operate and do services that might be done by 10 people. And then that is one other condition that we need to understand. The supply of other factors. If capital, lent, if capital, lent, proper education and entrepreneurship are not available, workers will not find employment. Obviously, employment it is a product that is coming as a result of investment on factors of production. If factors of production are not available, therefore, we cannot be able to create employment. So there needs to be an effective use of factors of production in order to create what? Create employment for our people. Evaluate the influence of productivity and skills on labor, the influence of productivity and skills on labor. We are saying how does productivity and skills affect labor? So all businesses employ workers that are able and have the skills to do the required work or a job. That is one condition. Productivity and skills. People would always employ workers that are able to do the best. So better skilled and trained, the better trained and skilled the labor is, the better productivity will be. I'm sure that is also good to understand. Training, the reason why we talk about people going to school and being through education is the desire or the vision and the expectation of having higher productivity. So better skilled people and trained laborers are better in terms of their productivity. There is there's less waste. Businesses will therefore look for skilled workers to employ in terms of when they are highly educated, or if they are educated and skilled. Businesses will also train workers to become more skilled for them to become for them to be more productive, which is also very straight good. The higher the qualifications and skills of the labor is, the easier it will be to get employed. But of course, not in every case. Otherwise, we just say this is a relative case, a situational case, depending with the industry and profession. The higher the qualification and skills the labor is, the easier it will be to get employment. You understand? Workers with higher skills will also be paid more in wages than workers without such skills. I'm sure that we have seen it and we understand that we tend to align salaries and wages with with qualifications. So the more qualified, the more skilled a person is, the better the wages or the salaries. And then we go to question 3. Question 3, answer the following questions. Name any two objectives of Labor Relations Act. Labor Relations Act, it actually to one objective to formulate industrial policies that must be adopted and used in industries. And then the act promotes orderly and collective bargaining that we have talked about also, that companies, we are talking about the representation and fairness in terms of employment. The act promote collective bargaining at sectorial level. We are talking about the sectors, sectorial education, or the sectors. We talk about various sectors that we have, e.g., we have HW sector, we have also agricultural sector, agric sector, we talk about banking sector, and so forth and so forth. There are quite a lot of examples. So the Act promotes employee participation in decision making in the workplace. The Labor Relations Act, it talks about the fairness of labor at workplace. It identifies the working conditions and working relationship within a workplace, the fairness of the conditions of employment in their entirety, in their full set. So the Labor Relations Act seeks to address matters such as these, the participation of employees, promotion of participation of employees in decision making, that is also participative management, collective bargaining, as well as formulation of industrial policies. And then why is CCMA important? We say that it is important so that they resolve dispute through conciliation and arbitration, bringing parties together and being impartial. We are saying bringing parties together and becoming an impartial party there. CCMA also publish information on activities and guidelines for dispute resolutions, which are also very important in terms of employees. in terms of workplaces, in terms of our economies. So it is quite important to understand that. And then the table, start the table and answer the questions that follow. We are given uh, that 2007 up to 2011, the dynamics in terms of growth and decrease of the economic performance of a country. So what does the graph depict? We are given that there are percentages that are varying up and down and even also sinking some years and so forth. So it depicts the percentage increase in a country's economic growth, which is also called GDP growth. It is actually measuring gross domestic product within a country, which is an increase in the country's economic growth. We are saying we have got 2007 to 2008, we have got 2008 to 2009 until going up to 2011. So it actually demonstrates GDP growth rate or DBT growth within or of a given country, which is of course not said in this case. When did South Africa experience the highest growth? The highest growth, we just look at the graph, which is in the first quarter in 2007. In the first quarter of 2007, we are saying the highest growth, first quarter of 2007, we have got 6.5 here, and there is nothing else which is more than that or close to that. So highest growth was in the first quarter of 2007. That is where we have got the highest growth. So it's a matter of looking on the graph and identifying the highest percentage, which is 6.5, that we can see in that case. And then briefly describe the term economic growth. It is an increase in the production of economic goods and services uh, compared from one period of time to another. So we are just looking at the increase in production of economic goods and services that we are assessing over a period of time. That is what we mean by economic growth. The next question is saying growth differentiate between economic growth and economic development. Uh, Growth refers to production, while development refers to quality of life of an individual or household. We are saying growth, it looks at production, whereas development, it focuses on quality of life of an individual or a household. Quality of life, we are saying that is development. So the quality of life, I remember, if you can go back and look into our previous notes and classes and stuff, we talk about economic indicators of development. Development, it measures quality of life that is composed of various factors, and then production is actually the growth, the economic growth. So why might an increase in the alcohol consumption lead to an increase in GDP? An increase in alcohol consumption lead to an increase in GDP, but a decrease in standards of living. You understand, this is a very practical question where we are understanding that consumption of alcohol can result in increase in GDP, but decrease in standard of living. What is happening is that more people will spend their income on alcohol, and then there will be less to spend on other necessary goods and services, thereby decreasing the quality of life of an individual or household. That is one other question or one other aspect. When people are drinking more, we are saying it results in an increase in GDP, but a decrease in what? In standard of living. So a GDP is also caused because of an increase in terms of production and the production of alcohol, because it is highly demanded. Hence, we need to increase the supply and the production of alcohol, which is actually another functional sector that is taking place in terms of production. More production in alcohol because of consumption, but a decrease in quality of life because more money is being spent on alcohol alone, other than improving the quality of life of the people. And then alcohol dependence also might lead to an increase in the need of medical treatment, placing a greater burden to the state. there are quite a lot of social ills that can also arise as a result of alcohol. Social ills which can arise that are also problematic to the state may also come into play. We talk about accidents, we talk about loss of lives, we talk about failure of people to actually be responsible in various individual and personal level, which can also we can also look at those and even diseases and moral and values decadence, which at the end of the day diminishes and suffocates our standards of living. We have a cartoon that we are given here. Rural urban migration refers to the movement of people from rural areas into cities to live and work that is being given there. So what negative effect can migration have on the economy? It results in overpopulation in areas where the people are going, lack of services, which can also result because of overpopulation, shortage of essential services and goods may also result there. It can also talk about spread of diseases, spread of contagious diseases might also arise. Migration, it also results, for talk about, for example, we have got the COVID-19 that we've been talking about, which was, there was a rampant spread of it. Migration, it can also result in depopulation of economically active people, economically active, economically active people from the rural areas, which makes them worse in terms of production, worsening their economic status, which can also become a problem. We are saying depopulation, rural areas will remain with only inactive people, which we remember and understand that rural population or economic activities in rural areas highly depend on what? They heavily depend on agriculture or primary services, which needs those young people. So in they move and leave these places, we are vulnerable to problems of what? Of extensive dependence of the aged, because there is no contribution of labor and service that is coming from the active population because they've migrated. And then why do people migrate to urban areas? It is because of search of better economic opportunities, better livelihoods such as employment. We talk about education or search of greener pastures. We talk about even better living standards, that can also be found there. We talk about better sanitation. We talk about entertainment. People move and go to holidays. Reasons for that is because they go even to many other various countries in search of better places of scenic views and also entertainment. So these are quite a lot of various reasons that might arise. We can even talk about in search of better health care facilities, results in people migrating. Briefly describe the concept of urban migration. Actually, it is movement of people from rural areas to urban areas, which we just made. It has been actually mentioned in the movement of people from rural areas to urban areas is what we call which we call urban migration. And then how will the net migration influence the South African economy? I'm sure I've already touched some of the points here It leads to densely populated informal settlements. Informal settlements can be can form or can result slums necessitating a massive demand for housing and infrastructure. We talk about slums. These are also poorly developed place settlements or housing. Poorly developed housing services. And then they actually put pressure on government on provision of housing, infrastructure. Also, we talk about land, our roads and clinics. We talk about congestion in terms of our roads and so forth. We talk about accidents, which at the end of the day would delay and affect our production. We are saying we talk about uh, also uh, uh, excessive many social ills, social problems. We talk about cultural, which are also, we can talk about cultural values, decadence. All those are quite a lot of problems that might also arise there. And then why is it important for the government to know the population growth rate in the country? Why should the government has to know the population growth rate? To one, the increase in population in cities increases labor which is needed in the industries. The government must know why or how is the increase is there. We are talking about two houses must be built for the increasing population in cities, which is also another good reason for them to know. We are talking about basically planning, innovation and entrepreneurship increases and urban population increases, so industries will also increase. We are talking about understanding the basic trends in terms of industrialization. That is also good. So it is all about the planning functions that the government must take into account, and then briefly discuss the Labour Court of South Africa in dispute resolution. One, the Labour Court grants interdict. It provides interdict. The Labour Court award compensation in any circumstances which are mentioned in the Labour Relations Act. It provides compensation. We are saying payments, reimbursements. Reimbursements which can also be given there in any circumstances that are mentioned in the Labor Relations Act. It ensures, we are saying fairness in terms of parties involved. They need to be paid back whatever that they've lost as according to the Labor Relations Act. The Labor Court make orders for costs which need to be paid. They give mandates for payments. They actually make it, they enforce payments, enforce orders for costs which need to be paid, and also Labor Court order parties to comply with the Labor Relations Act. The compliance with Labor Relations Act, it is also through the Labor Court, and then the Labor Court makes an arbitration award or any settlement agreement on order of the court, which is also a very important point. Arbitration award give the verdict. They give the verdict. They make judgments. They make judgments on that. And then how do Stokvel contribute towards a better form of savings for members? Stokvel's members coming together and saving money as a group. So how do Stokvel's contribute towards a better form of savings? One, we are saying Stokvel areas Stokvels are a savings. Stokvels are a savings or investment society to which members regularly contribute an agreed amount and from which they receive a lump sum payment. So we are saying it's a better savings because members, they contribute regularly. Members, they invest, they put their savings regularly, and that regular payment is an agreed amount which they receive in huge sums. In huge sums at the end of the day. Stockvales are sociable. Members have common values and understand one another. Therefore, they are good savings because members are able to settle disputes and differences without destroying or without dissolving the Stockvales. They impose self-discipline and commitment on people. Therefore, people cannot waste money. Money is kept for such an agreed period of time. Agreed period of time. Agreed period of time on what? On savings. You understand? And then no one wants to let their friends down when it comes to paying because there is a commitment. Hence, it enforces, we are saying it enforces commitment of members. Members are forced they are obliged to pay. There is a social prestige in belonging to a Stokvel. People have a sense of belonging. A sense of belonging, which also which improves determination towards savings, which improves the determination and interest on savings, as others are doing. People would want to say at the end of the day, Stockvales would also sometimes would want members to showcase their achievements at the end of the Stockville season or period. So basically, these are some of the answers, class, that we need to take note of. And thank you very much for your time. All the best. Let's keep on checking. Don't forget that section C is coming, where we are going to discuss on some essay questions that would come also. So just please take note and don't forget to like, to subscribe, and turn on your notification buttons. So therefore you keep on engaged. And with Metric Hub, the academic journey is always short. There is no repeat. Repeats are not there. We go forward and forward forever. Thank you very much. All the best in every upcoming exams. And please stay tuned for the next upcoming videos, lectures, and presentations. All the best once again.